Hi guys, my name is McGann, and like I've said in I think every video now, I am not a medical professional, I'm not a life coach, I am not anybody except a person with a lot of experience living around narcissists. I have at least one parent who is a narcissist, I have a very long running history of being romantically involved in narcissists, so I am here to try and share my experiences and hopefully help some other people avoid the same kind of fate. But this time what I want to talk about are narcissists versus jerks. Unfortunately, the word narcissist has risen in popularity so much lately that people are finding it synonymous with anybody who is just, not very nice. And it's one of those things where all narcissists are usually jerks, but not all jerks are narcissists. So first, let me go over the signs and symptoms of narcissistic personality disorder. And I'm getting this from the mayoclinic.org, so hopefully this is very accurate information. And you do not have to have every single one of these issues to be a narcissist, but almost every person on the planet is going to have one or two of these symptoms, so just because you demonstrate some narcissism, that's not necessarily to an unhealthy level, and that doesn't necessarily give you the disorder. But signs and symptoms of narcissistic personality disorder and the severity of symptoms vary. People with the disorder can have an exaggerated sense of self-importance, have a sense of entitlement, and require constant, excessive admiration. So that would be the I'm the smartest person in the room, or, they have to be dressed to the nines and walk in so that everybody stares at them. They have to be the best and the brightest. And those first two symptoms really play into that and their need to constantly have their ego fed. That's why you also tend to see narcissists go after a lot of people that they are attracted to sexually. So if you have a straight guy who's a narcissist, he's going to want tons of women just clamoring for his favor. They expect to be recognized as superior even without achievements that warrant it. So that's back to I'm the smartest person in the room. You didn't even graduate from high school. I'm still smarter than everybody in the universe. Everybody needs to listen to me. But you do the things that you tell other people not to do. Doesn't that make you a hypocrite? I'm so smart, that doesn't matter. That is the mentality that I've gotten to live with for my entire life. Exaggerate achievements and talents. So maybe they took one tennis lesson and they're saying that, they're a pro at Wimbledon level. Be occupied with fantasies about success, power, brilliance, beauty, or the perfect mate. And that's where a lot of people end up seeing narcissists in the dating field, is that they find somebody and they idolize them and, oh, you're so perfect, we could be so happy together, we'll have all this children, we'll live in this beautiful fairy tale house and our lives will be wonderful and we're going to be rich or famous or, control the universe, whatever. But it's more of a delusion and less of a reality that the narcissist is actually going to work for. And that's where the other people tend to get hurt. Because to the narcissist, it's kind of like, reading a book that they wrote and they love that book and they love the things that are going to happen and the people who are in it. But when they close that book, even if you're still in it because you were the lead romantic interest, they're done. They're over that book. They don't care about it anymore. And then they just pick up a new book that someone else is starring in and they read that now. That's a narcissist brain on relationships. They believe they are superior and can only associate with equally special people. Now, I have seen that one sort of waver a lot, but I do notice, especially in dating, that if a narcissist sees something special in you, like, oh, you have this talent, this skill, you have this thing that you're admired for, you have this light that shines. If I have you, I have that, and I can take it from you. They monopolize conversations and belittle or look down on people they perceive as inferior. My now estranged husband was really, really big on that one. I mean, he would just walk up to anybody that he had the vaguest of acquaintanceship with, and he would tell them, his entire life story like they cared about it. And it wouldn't even be something relevant for what he was trying to say, but basically every story he started was like, in the beginning, I was conceived at blah, and go from there. Like, nobody cares. Or if other people were having a conversation and he were standing by in the wings there, as soon as he saw a foothold, maybe they said, oh, and such band played there, he would swoop in and, oh, all this music stuff that I know about, now we're going to shift the conversation and it's all going to be about something that I can communicate with. And, I could see it on other people's faces where a lot of times they were like, you're not even in this conversation, what are you doing here? But if I kind of tried to rein him in and be like, hey, like maybe consider doing a condenser story or something that's more party appropriate, he would get upset with me. And my goal, I wasn't ashamed of him. My goal was not to embarrass him, but it's like, you're going to get along better if you use these certain social skills. But then I was the bad guy if I tried to give him a critique that might help him. And also the second part of that symptom where they look down on people that they perceive as inferior. Oh my goodness, anybody who was homeless or on welfare, or he thought they had too many kids, or they didn't make enough money, they were just garbage to him. They don't deserve anything. They need to go die in the gutters kind of stuff. He would literally say things like, we should institute Vulcan logic where feelings don't matter about anything. And then at the same time, he would be the biggest, whiniest crybaby for any little inconvenience. So it's like, emotions don't matter for anybody else unless they're his emotions. And so he would look down on people on welfare, and I would regularly, look over and be like, we were on welfare for a long time because you didn't want to work, because, you couldn't finish your college degree, because you couldn't do this, because you couldn't do that. That put us on welfare. And he would just get so angry when I pointed out the hypocrisy, that it just wasn't worth the fight. And it gets to such a bitterness when you're in these relationships for a long time, because you do hear these horrible things that are not nice all the time. It's constantly weighing on you, and you start feeling not nice and not happy because that person is around you, sucking the joy out of your existence. They expect special favors and unquestioning compliance with their expectations. So with a narcissist, it's like, here are the rules. They are set at this bar, at this limit. They expect to get at least here. They would love to be up here if, your boundaries or the rules of the restaurant or whatever will allow it, but they're going to at least fight and fight and fight to get up here where nobody else is allowed to be. And on the flip side of that, if they tell you to do something, you are expected to do it even if it doesn't make sense. I see this happen with our kids a lot, and it really upsets me. He's very do as I say, not as I do, and you better do it now, and you better do it without question or ever being reminded. And I'm like, dude, they're kids. Calm down. You don't even do half this stuff. But trying to co-parent with a narcissist is a whole different set of problems and issues, so that'll be a different video for a different day. They take advantage of others to get what they want. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. What can you do for me? They have an inability or unwillingness to recognize the needs and feelings of others. I think I've described this sort of over and over again. Like, they cannot tell that maybe the people at the party are bored with their 6-hour-long story, or the narcissist needs to have their ego fed and fed and fed and fed, but you will never see a compliment out of them unless, you're about to walk out the door. Then they'll give you everything you want. But as far as, on a day-to-day status, it's what can you do for me? How can you make me feel good? How can you make me happy? And they give little to nothing in return to you as the other person in that relationship. They can be envious of others and believe that others envy them. That is definitely true. Like, oh, look at them. They think they're so special. They think they're so hot to trot. They think they're so good. They're nothing. Or, I need 70,000 guns because everybody's gonna come out here to murder us, take our stuff. Like, what? Like our 5-year-old TVs? And like, what? We don't have stuff that is that nice to worry about on that level. Nobody's gonna break in here and kill us in our sleep to go steal a John Deere lawnmower that's like 15 years old. They behave in an arrogant or haughty manner, coming across as conceited, boastful, and pretentious. Again, that's the I am so much better than everyone else around me. And they insist on having the best of everything, for instance, the best car or office. So if there are any kind of financial issues, like you have a budget you have to stick to, like, 99% of the people in the world do, a narcissist doesn't care. They want a new computer, they're going to go buy one whether they can afford it or not. Or they look at the bank account and they go, oh, we have $700 in here. That means I have $700 I can spend. And they make no bother to think about, oh, we have rent and utilities and groceries that we have to buy. It's, I want this thing impulsively and we have this money available right now, so I can just spend it however I please. Or I suddenly need a new car that is way above my means and it's going to cost way too much in maintenance and gas, but I have to have it. I have to have it right now. I will pay that $1,000 a month for that car. I don't care. I need it. And if you're in a relationship, a marriage, they're your parents, whatever, the entire family will suffer because of that mentality. And at the same time, the narcissist tends to sit back and, demand the best of everything and then insist that they have the worst of everything. It also says that at the same time, people with narcissistic personality disorder have trouble handling anything they perceive as criticism, and they can become impatient or angry when they don't receive special treatment, have significant interpersonal problems and feel easily slighted, react with rage or contempt and try to belittle the other person to make themselves appear superior, have difficulty regulating emotions and behavior, experience major problems dealing with stress and adapting to change, feel depressed and moody because they fall short of perception, and have secret feelings of insecurity, shame, vulnerability, and humiliation. Now, a lot of that seems to be where the vulnerable narcissist comes in. I would like to point out that the at least top half that I read here really sounds like the covert narcissist, the one you can spot from a mile away. But then there's the vulnerable narcissist where, they act kind of like quiet and beat up and they're in the corner, just poor me, until they control the entire energy of the room because you have to walk on eggshells to be around that person so that you don't set them off in some like depression spiral. So narcissism is so diverse and varied that I really understand when people have trouble identifying it. And again, you can have several issues off of this list and still not be considered a narcissist. So you can have narcissistic qualities or traits or tendencies and not actually have the personality disorder. So it's just kind of up to you to recognize what is narcissism and are you okay with that person's behavior. If there is ever a time where you do not feel okay with how somebody you are dating or married to or whatever is acting, or maybe they're a friend, maybe they're a coworker, get that person out of your life to the best of your ability. If they are toxic for you, even having one or two traits, that doesn't mean that it's okay and you should just learn to put up with it. You need to have your boundaries in place to where you feel good and can function yourself. Nobody should be draining you with their toxicity, whether they have a diagnosable disorder or not. But that is where it can be very difficult to distinguish a narcissist from a jerk. Now, if somebody is just a jerk, they might be loud, they might be abrasive, they might not be very nice to you, they might, say mean things like that, steal your lunch money. But at the end of the day, what really matters is how you feel about things. That's probably coming out a little bit muddled. Let me try with an example here. Okay, so back when I was in high school, I was dating this guy for several months. We had this thing where he would park outside my house and kind of rev his sports car engine. And because it wasn't a busy street, it would wake me up because my window was next to the street. And that was my signal to come outside and he wanted to talk to me. So there's this one day where I hear the revving and then my phone rings. I answer it. My boyfriend's outside. He says, "Come outside. I really want to talk to you." And it did not sound great, but I come outside. I'm in my pajamas from head to toe. I sit down in his car and, to cut to the chase, he goes, "I have found somebody else that I want to date, so I'm breaking up with you." And it was very sudden. It was very abrupt. You could probably see my heart shattering from the driver's seat there. So it's not that it didn't hurt. It's not that it didn't make me cry. It's not that it wasn't a really kind of mean way to go about the relationship, because I wasn't going around trying to find other people that I would rather date other than him, but he was. So I felt a little bit devastated, but at the end of it all, once I got a couple days removed from the pain of the situation, I was okay. I could process it, I could move on, I could start to date other people because I got that closure. So I think the really important thing to note about that relationship was the closure that he gave me, that, this is the period for this relationship, we're done, it's not going any further, I don't like you anymore, I don't want to see you anymore. That closure let me move forward. He didn't have a scenario where he dumped me and came back 2 days later, and then dumped me and came back a month later, and then dumped me and came back, and that drier cycle of doom of idealize, devalue, discard, and hoover you back up, where it's just like you go from these insane highs to these crippling lows and your emotions are drugged through the ringer. So yes, he hurt me, when he broke up with me that way, but it was a breakup at the end of the day. It wasn't a manipulative tactic to make me go crazy. And being that blunt and direct actually caused me the least amount of damage possible. So as much as I hated that experience in that moment, I'm really thankful that that's how it went. Now, to the contrary, if that guy had been a narcissist, he would have never told me that he wanted to see somebody else. He would have started to see that other person and kept me on the back burner and never broken up with me, probably. He would have just seen me less and called me less, and I would have felt like, what's going on? He's pulling away. He's never around anymore. Or he could have, like I said, broken up with me, and then if the new girl didn't pan out, be right back a minute later and then break up with me and come back. But he did not put me through that constant yo-yoing turmoil like a narcissist would do. And a narcissist is not very prone to give you closure, usually because most narcissists are never done playing with you. As long as they think they can get something out of you to feed their ego, they're going to keep coming back for as long as you let them. That's why going no contact and blocking people and not entertaining, 3 a.m. phone calls of, hey, I miss you, baby, what you doing, what you up to, keep them off your Instagram DMs. You don't need that in your life. But to try and summarize this sort of strange, crazy video here, a jerk might really, really, really hurt your feelings, and they might even do it more than once. It kind of depends on, what you put up with. But a narcissist is going to mess with your brain chemistry until you're flat out addicted to them. And they are very hard to break away from, mostly because you do get addicted to them and the positive attention that they give you. So literally, when they say jump, you're like, how high? I'll jump as high as you want if you'll love me again. So if a relationship feels wrong, if your body is having a negative reaction when, so-and-so is about to come around, or, they call and your stomach drops, that's a pretty good sign that you're around somebody toxic. But if somebody is just looking at their phone too much, or they don't offer to pay the bill every time, or they're just kind of snooty, or, you guys just don't get along, that does not mean that they're a narcissist. But again, be careful. It always boils down to what you feel good with handling at the end of the day. So just because the guy who doesn't put down his phone isn't necessarily a narcissist, that doesn't mean that he's still somebody that you need to date if he's not making you feel good with your time together. Does that make sense? I hope so. Anyways, I'm going to stop this here because I feel like it got a little off the rails rambly. I don't have any notes today. I just keep seeing everybody calling everybody a narcissist, and it kind of hurts the word in general when people are talking about very toxic and abusive situations in people. So just kind of think about, what isn't a narcissist. And even if you don't know what label to put on it, that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to put any label on it. Because again, a relationship at the end of the day should start and end with your comfort level. If somebody's pushing you too hard, if they're not making you feel safe, if they do not make you feel good on a mental, physical, or spiritual level, they ain't for you, honey. Move on. Anyways, I hope that has been helpful. And remember, always do what's best for yourself first, because the narcissist is always going to do what's best for themselves first.